It had taken a good deal of trawling through old downstate newspapers, but during the first week of September 1860, the Chicago Times finally found something from the past that could embarrass Abraham Lincoln. It was a speech the Times editors exhumed from a dusty 1844 issue of the obscure Macomb Eagle, when Lincoln had been campaigning for Henry Clay's last presidential bid, a speech that dared to attack the father of American independence, Thomas Jefferson. The character of Jefferson was repulsive, the speech declared, and the chief evidence of Jefferson's degradation was the long-whispered story of Jefferson's liaison with his slave, Sally Hemings, and the slave children he had sired by her. Continually puling about liberty, equality, and the degrading curse of slavery, he brought his own children to the hammer and made money of his debaucheries. This was not usually the stuff out of which serious political embarrassments are made, but when Anson Chester passed a copy of the article to Lincoln, the tall Springfield lawyer's reply crackled with irritation. Lincoln was now in the midst of his own campaign for the presidency of the United States, and over the last 6 years he had made Jefferson's declaration the moral touchstone of his argument against the extension of slavery in the American Republic. He had gone out of his way to praise Jefferson as one of those noble fathers, Washington, Jefferson, and Madison, and in 1859 he had pinpointed the principles of Jefferson as the definitions and axioms of free society. All honor to Jefferson, to the man who, in the concrete pressure of a struggle for national independence by a single people, had the coolness, forecast, and capacity to introduce into a mere revolutionary document an abstract truth applicable to all men and all times, and so embalm it there, that today and in all coming days it shall be a rebuke and a stumbling block to the very harbingers of reappearing tyranny and oppression. Lincoln's response to the Chicago Times accusation was a sharp, harsh denial, published in the Illinois State Journal on September 6, 1860. This is a bold and deliberate forgery. Mr. Lincoln never used any such language in any speech at any time. Oddly, the denial was not signed by Lincoln. I wish my name not to be used, Lincoln wrote back to Chester, but my friends will be entirely safe in denouncing the thing as a forgery, so far as it is ascribed to me. And he may have had good reason, for in fact, as William Henry Herndon, Lincoln's law partner and biographer, wrote years later, Mr. Lincoln hated Thomas Jefferson as a man, as well as a politician. In Jefferson, Lincoln saw a compound of hypocrisy and aristocracy, a commitment to freedom in words but not in deeds, the champion of an agrarian order that concealed an elite class agenda within a fog of solidarity with farmers and laborers. At the same time, though, Jefferson by the 1850s had become an American icon, and it ill-behooved Lincoln to air his hatred too publicly. Besides, icons can be used for more purposes than their designers plan. Lincoln upended the Jeffersonian icon by embracing Jefferson's words on freedom and equality, and then using them as a way of highlighting how Jefferson's own party now seemed to be deserting them in favor of protecting the political interests of the slaveholding South. During the great debates he held in 1858 with his Democratic rival, Stephen A. Douglas, Lincoln delighted in drawing as vast a gulf as he could between Jefferson's declarations and the justifications Jefferson's political heirs were now weakly uttering in defense of slavery, as if to make the founder of the Democratic Party a useful convert to Lincoln's anti-slavery republicanism. But behind the tactical shrewdness of wrenching Thomas Jefferson out of his opponent's hands, the editors of the Chicago Times had been right to see Abraham Lincoln as sitting far from Jefferson's seat, and shrewd in their own way in digging up old speeches that would prove it. Lincoln was born only 3 weeks before Jefferson finished his second and last term as the third President of the United States. But for all of his life, Lincoln would stand uneasily in the shadow of the great Virginian. His life was entwined around a pattern of cultural values that parted sharply from Jefferson's. Jefferson carefully pared apart his political principles from his personal life, demanding public virtue from officeholders, but pursuing his own hedonistic satisfactions in private, lauding liberty, but holding between 150 and 200 African Americans in slavery during his lifetime. By contrast, Lincoln was a moral rigorist who made a fetish of his own sincerity and honesty, who endured a difficult political marriage without ever arousing the slightest imputation of faithlessness, and who claimed that he was so naturally anti-slavery that I cannot remember when I did not so think and feel.